I wonder if you've tried buying anything in the co-op. We had a lovely shop in the middle of Rugby, and then suddenly the co-op took it over. And although there's some rather charming staff there, it's overpriced, and the staff inevitably are very hard to discover because they're busy running around the shop, filling bags for online shoppers. And this great conundrum of modern Britain, the co-op, it bills itself as a community-focused, ethical supermarket, a bastion of fair trade, convenience, and local charm. And yet, for many who live in areas dominated by the co-op monopoly, it represents something far less wholesome, an overpriced, understaffed, often infuriating retail dystopia. I begin with the obvious bit, the price. The co-op is, to put it mildly, extortionate. The experience of doing a weekly shop there is very similar to throwing money directly into a bonfire while a cashier begrudgingly scans your items at glacial pace, or you have to do it yourself in a machine that doesn't quite work. Those forced to rely on a co-op as their nearest supermarket are effectively trapped into a financial hostage situation. Customers in remote areas like the Isle of Skye report that alternatives are 40, 50, or even 60 miles away, forcing them to accept whatever ludicrous price the co-op slaps on a pint of milk or a bag of pasta. And what do you get for these inflated prices? Not service, for sure. The staff, though at no fault of their own, are often too few and far between, stretched thinly between actual customers and the ever-expanding ranks of online shoppers who apparently take priority. If you, a mere in-person shopper, wish to purchase an item, you need to weave your way through a battalion of employees packing online groceries, filling up the aisles, who will barely acknowledge your existence, let alone offer assistance unless you try and walk out of the shop without paying. But the co-op's sins extend beyond mere pricing and neglect. It turns out this pillar of community values has also spent years actively blocking competition from setting up shop nearby. The UK's Competition and Markets Authority found that the co-op had engaged no fewer than 107 breaches of regulations designed to prevent supermarkets from imposing restrictive land agreements. In simple terms, this means that co-op deliberately stopped rival supermarkets from opening stores nearby, thereby eliminating the possibility of competition and ensuring that customers had nowhere else to go. This isn't just a few minor infractions. This is a deliberate, systematic effort to keep communities dependent on this second-rate store, on the co-op's overpriced monopoly. And let's be clear. Competition is what keeps prices fair. In areas where customers have a choice between Aldi, Lidl, Tesco and Asda, prices are more competitive. Where the co-op is the only option, prices soar, because quite simply they can. And look at the co-op's response to being caught out. A spokesman called the situation extremely disappointing, as if they had been let down, rather than being the ones doing the letting down. They assured the public that they had taken all necessary action to ensure this issue is resolved and doesn't happen again. One imagines them saying this while still tallying up the next round of price increases on essential goods. Of course, the co-op is not the only guilty party when it comes to these restrictive land practices. Morrison's, Tesco's and Sainsbury's have all been caught out before, but none to the extent of the co-op, which is supposed to be your friendly shop, or friendly to itself, which despite all the self-styled image as an ethical grocer, it's managed to outdo all of these others in sheer scale of anti-competitive behaviour, in sheer nastiness, in sheer spite. And the consequences are dire for those living in areas where co-op reigns supreme. Why? Because it's fiddled the books. Fresh produce regularly runs out by 4 p.m. The staff are overstretched, the shelves are half empty, and by the time they do apply a discount to an item nearing its expiry date, it's usually a miserly 10%, as if to say, we would rather you pay full price for a slightly mouldy sandwich. So what are we left with? An overpriced supermarket that systematically ensures there are no cheaper alternatives, a shopping experience that's both underwhelming and extortionate, a supply chain that seemingly never recovered from COVID, despite the rest of the retail world moving on, and worst of all, a company that had the gall to block competitors from opening stores in local communities while maintaining a thin veneer of corporate benevolence. Oh, well, if you don't like our shop, you can go to our funeral parlour. To those fortunate enough to live within a reasonable distance of a Tesco, an Aldi, or even a slightly neglected Asda, count your blessings. To those condemned to an existence of co-op dependency, my sympathies. Either slash your prices, co-op, or at least have the decency to admit your business model is built on quietly fleecing those with no other choice.